responsibilities in Oppenheimer Funds in looking after the organizational effectiveness team are threefold. One, learning and leadership development. Two, organizational change and culture efforts. And three, talent management, which includes performance management that we'll talk about. Integrating development planning and performance management to address organizational capabilities has to do with why we have capabilities in the first place. Business capabilities create value for clients, and that competitive differentiation in the marketplace through product, services, expertise is what forms a business strategy, and that depends on people. This is where performance management and talent development bring that strategy to life. It's to ensure that people have the kind of accountability and alignment that enables them to execute against business objectives. And in terms of how we ensure that this happens, one, our senior leadership team is quite engaged in setting the focus and explaining both business direction as well as alignment across departments. This then cascades through the performance management process into the goal setting that for each individual clarifies how people can contribute to executing that strategy, and further throughout the year through the development conversations, what is the kind of learning that they need in order to grow and further grow with the firm. In terms of the literature and the company research, numerous challenges include everything from integration of systems to ownership to tracking performance, and I'll go ahead and explain how we do all that. In terms of ensuring that performance management systems are integrated with other HR initiatives and efforts in the firm, at Oppenheimer Funds, we at the end of the year do calibration dialogue that's based on the same performance benchmarks as the quarterly performance dialogue is. And what that ensures is a differentiation for the purposes of compensation and promotion decisions. Further, these behavioral benchmarks, which we've defined for each of our departments, are what we've integrated into interview guides so that sourcing new talent is aligned to the performance model we have been building. And three, for example, new hires get introduced to this performance model and receive learning and tools that enables them to understand how performance management unfolds. On top of all of that, our leadership development and management development frameworks are consistent in addressing the kinds of managerial skills necessary to have the dialogue that enables performance management to happen. Another challenge that exists is the sponsorship and support from the top. In organizations, business leaders can get quite busy, and we're lucky here at Oppenheimer Funds in that our leaders are quite engaged. In fact, our department heads personally send out messaging every quarter that sets expectations around performance management and what needs to be done, whether it's to set goals at the beginning of the year or do development conversations later on. Those of us in the organizational effectiveness team with our HR business partners provide the business leaders with the templates, the reminders necessary to make that happen. And so it's a very high-touch approach that ensures that consistency and the coherence. Having mentioned how my team in organizational effectiveness works with HR business partners, let me also address the issue of ownership, which can dilute any change effort. For us in organizational effectiveness, we own the design of performance management and we own the consistency of the implementation. I'm accountable to my boss, who's the head of HR, to do that. That being said, our HR business partners who support each of our business clients are critical to our effort in that they're the ones who are following up about the implementation of performance management and informing customization efforts on our end that are necessary for this to fit the business needs. And in addition to all that, we have data and systems people who help us ensure that we have a way to document these performance management conversations and examples. So we do that in success factors. Another challenge is a belief around performance management being a once-a-year, oftentimes end-of-year process. And this is a fear-based approach, one where people in agony await what the verdict will be, and managers struggle to make some kind of a case to fight for their employees. We've created an ongoing approach that involves these quarterly conversations around performance management to reduce those surprises that happen at year end. In fact, some of our departments engage in monthly conversations. And we also go through an effort to remind managers, both through training and through tools, how to be ready to have sometimes difficult conversations that may come with performance management. At the same time, we remind our employees that they're the ones who own the process. So we've made that shift in order to give employees the control to be the first ones to enter progress notes in success factors, and then the managers follow up with theirs. The employees are expected to schedule their performance management dialogue and come prepared with examples of accomplishments and challenges and questions for their managers. And ultimately, this kind of ongoing dialogue is meant to create a feedback culture that can enable innovation and change. Culture and context are critical to a performance management strategy, and the way I look at it as performance management being a bridge between the legacy and the change that are both required in a business and in a business that's attempting to grow. On one hand, with the legacy, we have values and a company culture that guides behavior as much as business goals do and what gets set in order to accomplish growth objectives. And the reason why I call performance management a bridge is because it's a bridge between that current reality and whatever change we're looking to drive and deal with the resistance along the way. One specific example of how we pull this off with our own performance management approach is that we started with a pilot 2 years ago to remove these performance ratings, to remove the forced ranking, and to shift to a more balanced and transparent approach. And after doing this pilot in several business groups and receiving positive feedback, we were able to build on that success and literally bring in these business managers to participate on panels and discuss how they did it in order to now this year, for the first year, do it enterprise-wide and be able to launch that approach throughout the company. And that required, on one hand, clarifying the continuity from the values that we appreciate as a company, and yet also having this call to action around business growth and the objectives we all need to accomplish. Determining which components of performance management work requires metrics and feedback. And to illustrate what kinds of metrics and feedback we use, one of them is employee engagement. In fact, employee engagement was the very reason why we moved away from ratings and forced ranking driven approach, as many do, to one that's a better employee experience with a balanced and transparent dialogue. Our employee engagement survey, which we do every year, this year has shown about a 4 to 5 point increase on several questions that deal with performance management. We saw improvement in clarity of job expectations, in accountability, in recognition, in seeing the system as being more fair. So that's one indicator of our success. A second approach to metrics is a dashboard for the performance management itself, which my team in organizational effectiveness produces on a monthly basis to show by department what has been the progress made in one, attending the training, and two, completing the tasks in the success factors that quarterly require people to either set goals or track their progress or document their development conversations. Third, we also audit the comments themselves to catch quality improvement opportunities. So to see not only are we completing it, but what's being completed. And then ultimately ensure an alignment to these benchmarks, which I mentioned are the behavioral indicators of success, which in each department have essentially replaced ratings as the measurement system and clarify what's important. The shift from performance review evaluation to real-time performance coaching is not an either-or question, it's a yes and. Both are needed, both are necessary, and they're not mutually exclusive. So when I think of evaluations, I think of a decision-making system that's necessary in determining compensation outcomes, who are the high-impact employees whose responsibilities have increased to warrant promotions, and this type of an HR mechanism is absolutely necessary. However, it's not enough, and that's why the kind of quarterly dialogue that we've been discussing, or even better, a real-time performance coaching that happens on the job when the manager witnesses an employee in action at a meeting or in some project work is where the learning conversation can happen most effectively. And that depends on both the managers and the employees having the awareness and the skill to engage in that kind of dialogue. My team in organizational effectiveness provides the kind of training and tools necessary to do that. For example, courses on difficult conversations or tip sheets on how to handle those. We also have management development structure both for experienced managers who go through training that addresses their needs around leading teams or emotional intelligence, and then also leadership for new managers. Ultimately, what we're looking to do is build the kind of confidence and capability that's going to further evolve the feedback culture and the open dialogue for all employees and their managers. The way we brand performance management and Oppenheimer Funds is as active performance management. That means no ratings, no forced distribution, no surprises. It's a process that's one owned by employees. That's a key principle, that employees are the ones who drive the dialogue. Two, it's a balanced conversation, one where we seek to capture both accomplishments and the kinds of challenges that inform development and learning. And three, it's a transparent process that's based on an ongoing dialogue, so no surprises at year end. What also enables these principles to happen and for us to implement this kind of quarterly dialogue is that we've reduced the bureaucracy around it. Instead of a manager documenting a case at year end to defend whatever they're trying to do for their employees, we do very brief quarterly highlights after the employees and managers have had their conversations, where each will document the dialogue in the system, and that's about it. So we've heard very positive feedback about this now shifting a focus from labels to a quality conversation. The mindset about performance is key to everything, isn't it? The research shows that's really what drives the outcomes. And for us, in terms of the mindset, one element of that are the training sessions and the communications that we do around each of the quarterly milestones that are embedded in our approach. For example, we'll use banners on our company website to remind employees and their managers that it's time to enter goals at the beginning of the year. Or for example, in the training sessions, we'll use videos with real-time employees playing managers, having dialogue to illustrate what works or what doesn't work. Two, we then have this high-touch approach, which I mentioned is driven by the partnership between the organizational effectiveness team and our HR business partners, so that we remind employees and their managers about the expectations around the conversations. And then three, we ensure that there's a syncing up with all our other learning programs, consulting efforts. So if I'm facilitating an offsite with business leaders, I'll be reminding them about implications for their goal setting. Or if one of my team members may be doing some kind of a team building session, they'll remind them around development goals that can relate back to whatever they agreed upon in the team work. Maximizing new habits of any kind is a very human challenge, and even more so in the busy world of work. The key to that for us is that partnership we have within HR. So the organizational effectiveness team, as the owners of the training and communication efforts and the performance management philosophy overall, we rely on our partners in HR to help us create those habits, to help us have ongoing conversations with managers and the employees about the kinds of challenges they face as they start to have the conversations. And the feedback that we get, this kind of real-time pulse on the types of problems that might be coming up, are what then informs our training and communication efforts. It informs the kinds of tools we design. So that's one, this very dynamic partnership that we have within HR. Two, the engagement survey that we do every year specifically includes questions around manager feedback. So for us, that's a way at a departmental and team level to have progress check on what's going on. And then third, we have an advisory committee we just created this year to help us continue to evolve our approach and our design. And so the HR business partners who are part of that committee are helping us create an even better relevance for the business and to create a sustainability of our approach. My personal philosophy towards the work we do in organizational effectiveness is, number one, rooted in the principle of wanting to create a meaningful work experience for people, for my own team as well as for the employees of this company. Work is important to us as people living an engaged life, and it's a privilege to be able to contribute to that. We as people also thrive when we know we're making progress and we're accomplishing goals, and so the link right there to performance management is how can we make that happen as opposed to making it some feared and frustrating experience. And I've been on the side of that. I've had to sell forced rankings and distributions. I've been on the receiving end of some very ineffective performance conversations, and having both personally experienced it and seen what it does to a company system, I really do believe that in any firm, it's the people who execute the strategy, it doesn't execute itself. And especially in an asset management business like ours, where what we do is critically dependent on the talent we have, it's up to us to optimize that talent, to let the people be their best and continue to grow with the company.